Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. In this review video, we'll be taking a look at Hasegawa's classic N1K2-J Shiden, or George. This is Hasegawa kit number J5. In this video, I'll be giving a little bit of the history of the N1K2. We'll also look at what comes in the box. We'll be going through the kit instructions, and I'll be talking about any problem areas to watch out for. We'll look at the surface detailing on the exterior parts of the kit. We'll also talk about the detailing on the small parts, including the landing gear and the interior of the kit. We'll look at the marking options that are included, and I'll talk about how the decals performed on this build, and I'll be giving my conclusions at the end. This classic kit was actually designed by a company called Mania in the early 1980s, and in this review we'll try to answer the question, is this classic kit still worth building? The N1K2 was designed by a company called Kawanishi, and they were famous for their flying boats. The N1K2 was derived from Kawanishi's own N1K1 float plane fighter. The N1K2-J was the second iteration of the land plane version of the N1K1. As such, it featured a host of revisions, including a low-mounted wing and a much simpler landing gear and airframe design. The N1K2 is considered to be one of the best Japanese fighter aircraft to be fielded during World War II. It was armed with 4 20mm cannon. It had excellent handling characteristics and maneuverability, and when flown by a skilled pilot, it was a formidable opponent for the Allied fighters. Looking at what comes in the box, there are 4 sprues of gray plastic parts and 1 clear sprue, in addition to a nice decal sheet. Looking at the kit instructions, step 1 covers the cockpit assembly. This is not parts heavy, but it is a little bit detail painting heavy. One addition I made to the kit was adding the Eduard pre-painted photo etch seat belts to the pilot's seat. In step 2, we're closing up the fuselage halves around the cockpit assembly. We're also adding a decal to the instrument panel and painting that. This turned out nicely, and it's quite visible through the open cockpit canopy. Step 3 just covers the engine assembly and the front cowl. Everything fit together very nicely here. Due to the close cowling around the N1K2's engine, not much is visible of the engine on the finished build. Step 4 just covers the 3-piece wing assembly. Everything built up really nicely here. One thing I noticed was that the wheel well detail on this kit is a little bit on the shallow side. It's not incredibly realistic. In step 5, we're attaching the wing assembly to the fuselage and the tail planes to the fuselage. And once again, the fit on all of these parts was superb. It fit very nicely. I did not have to use putty on any area of this build. Step 6 covers the assembly of the landing gear and installing that on the airframe. This is another area to watch out for on the kit. There are some seams on the landing gear parts that are just difficult to clean up without flat spotting the landing gear legs. Step 7 covers the assembly of the external fuel tank. And again, I had no problems in this step of construction. In step 8, we're installing the prop and the cockpit canopy. All of these parts fit great. The clarity and fit of the clear parts is superb, and they really look nice on the finished kit. Looking at the painting and marking guide, there are 4 decal options included with this kit. I chose to build option 2, and that is a 407th Fighter Squadron, 343rd Naval Wing, N1K2, flown by Squadron Leader Hayashi in 1945. The decals that came in the kit behaved wonderfully. They went down nicely. I had no issues with them silvering, and they've really held up well over time. These are not the typical Hasegawa decals of the time that had the cream color for the white. The white on the decals in this kit is very vibrant. I used Polyscale's Imperial Japanese Navy green over Imperial Japanese Navy gray for the color scheme. I freehanded the demarcation line between the 2 colors, and I think the paint job came out pretty nicely. I did not pre-shade the model, and I actually completed this kit originally cleanly, and so there was no weathering on it whatsoever, and I have subsequently gone back and used it as a weathering test bed, and I'm really happy with the end result. To do the weathering, I used a combination of pastels, I also used some Testors oil-based silver and some Prismacolor silver colored pencils to further enhance the detailing. And I also used a mechanical pencil to highlight around some of the raised panel lines. The surface detailing on this kit is represented by a combination of some engraved detail and then raised panel lines. The raised panel lines themselves are very petite. They're not overdone, and I'm really happy with the way these look on the finished kit. I really don't have an issue with them. I know there are those of us out there who do not like the raised panel lines, and I hope this build shows that a serious modeler doesn't need to be deterred simply because a kit has raised panel lines. In conclusion, well, I'm very happy with the way this kit turned out. I really think it looks nice on the shelf. I love revisiting my older builds and breathing new life into them with updated weathering techniques. Due to the limited parts count on this kit, and given the excellent fit of those parts and the excellent quality of the clear parts on the kit and the excellent quality of the decals and the simple instructions, I can recommend this model to modelers of most skill levels. And a simple build like this leaves more time for weathering and detailing out the aircraft. Well, I'd love to know what you guys think. If any of you have built the N1K2 from Hasegawa or Mania, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, model on.